Start with a jaw-dropping moment. I gave up my job, my apartment, and my life to care for my dying mother. After a year of 24/7 nursing, they sent me a bill. So I gave them mine. Asterisk asterisk, I never thought I'd be the kind of daughter who would charge her own parents' money. I mean, who does that? Right? But then again, who sends their child a bill for taking care of their sick mother for an entire year? Hi, my name's Amanda. I'm 29 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is a story I wish I didn't have to live through. It started with love, turned into sacrifice, spiraled into disrespect, and ended with the most expensive invoice my parents had ever seen. Let me take you back to the beginning, asterisk. It all started with a phone call. I still remember where I was sitting. In a cafe with my laptop, working on a freelance project I'd hustled hard to land after leaving my corporate job a few months earlier. Life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I had a small apartment in the city, decent clients and freedom. Then my father called. Amanda, your mother collapsed this morning. She's at St. Jude's. I need you to come. I didn't hesitate. I didn't ask questions. I packed a bag, closed my laptop, and caught the next train home. That was supposed to be a weekend visit. Maybe a week if things were serious. But 1 week turned into 2. 2 became a month. And before I realized what was happening, I was living back in my childhood bedroom, brushing my mother's hair, feeding her, tracking her medications, and putting my life on indefinite hold. No one told me to stay. But no one else stepped up. Either. My brother Brian said he had work obligations. He lived only 40 minutes away, but always had a meeting, a trip, or some vague excuse. My sister Kylie, the golden child, lived in Texas. She called once a week and sent flowers that was supposed to make up for not being there. And my father, well, he was present in body, but absent in every other way. It was me. Just me. Bathing my mother. Waking up every night to help her to the bathroom. Listening to her cry in pain or confusion. At first, I told myself I could handle it. I was strong. I loved her. But strength doesn't fill your bank account when the rent's due, and you haven't billed a client in months. At first, my dad said, "We'll take care of you while you're here." But take care of you turned into, you should contribute more around the house. Soon I was doing everything: cooking, cleaning, caregiving. And when I asked for help with gas money or my cell bill, I got tight-lipped nods or guilt trips. "You're not paying rent," Dad reminded me. Right. I was just paying in sweat, tears, and sanity. I started to feel invisible. No one asked how I was doing. No one noticed that I hadn't had a haircut in 9 months, or that I'd lost 15 pounds from stress. The worst part? I didn't even recognize myself anymore. I used to be ambitious, driven, and hopeful. But now? I felt like a ghost living in my own life, always in the background, always needed, never acknowledged. The only time they noticed me was when I did something wrong. I missed Kylie's birthday Zoom call because I was scrubbing vomit out of Mom's bedsheets, and suddenly I was selfish. Brian joked during a family dinner that I was just freeloading like a professional daughter. Even Mom, in one of her lucid moments, said, "Amanda, you should smile more. You used to be pretty." That broke me a little. I cried in the laundry room for an hour that night, but I stayed. I stayed because I didn't know how to leave. And honestly, I didn't want to abandon my mom. She needed me. Even if no one else did. Until one day, everything changed. It was exactly 1 year to the day since I returned home. My mom had made huge progress. She could walk again with assistance, cook small meals, even have short conversations, without getting confused. She wasn't fully recovered, but she was getting there. And that morning, Dad called me downstairs. Family meeting, he said. We've got something important to discuss. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they'd finally acknowledge everything I'd done. Maybe they had a surprise thank you dinner planned. Maybe, just maybe, someone had remembered I existed. What happened instead? They handed me an envelope. Inside was a stapled document with neat bullet points and a bold total at the bottom. $28,493. Living costs, Dad explained. You've been here a year. We calculated food, utilities, water, and general expenses. It's only fair. I stared at the paper. I couldn't even breathe. I was so shocked I didn't speak for a full minute. They billed me after a year of sacrifice, sleepless nights, missed income, and emotional labor. They handed me a bill. I remember laughing, not a happy laugh. A dry, breathless, broken laugh that cracked open every part of me I'd tried to keep together. I didn't say anything that day. I didn't argue or cry. I just nodded, folded the paper, and walked back to my room. Then I opened my laptop, the one I haven't touched for anything except prescriptions and emails. And I started calculating. They wanted an invoice. Fine. They were about to get one. Asterisk, asterisk, I sat in front of my laptop that night, the cold blue glow lighting up the darkness of my room like a spotlight on my resolve. No more guilt, no more silence. No more pretending I was okay with being walked all over. If they wanted to treat me like a business transaction, I'd give them one. I opened a blank document and typed in bold across the top, "Invoice for services rendered Amanda L. Then I began to write. Itemized everything. Every single thing. Caregiving services. 12 hours day times 365 days times $25 hour equals $109,500. And that was me being modest. A professional nurse would have charged more. Overnight monitoring. 12 hours, night times, 365 days times $15 hour equals $65,700. Because sleep? I hadn't slept more than 4 hours straight in a year. Household management, cooking, cleaning, laundry, groceries equals $10,000 flat. Do you know how many times I scrubbed a toilet with someone else's mess in it? Emotional labor. Therapy level. Support, stress management, family mediation equals $5,000. Also modest. You try convincing your mom she's not dying every morning. Opportunity cost. Missed freelance work. Estimated. Loss equals $35,000. Clients moved on. Projects died. My career stalled. Mental health damages. Insomnia. Weight loss, anxiety. No price can match, but I put a symbolic $2,500 total. $227,700. And for fun, I subtracted their original bill from mine. Balance due to Amanda. $199.207. I printed it, stapled it neatly, slid it into a manila envelope, and left it on the kitchen table the next morning. I didn't say a word. I just made myself a cup of coffee, ate some toast, and watched from the hallway as my dad picked up the envelope like it was a parking ticket. At first, he looked confused, then offended, then angry. "This is a joke," he said, waving the pages in the air. "No," I said, finally stepping into the room. "This is the real cost of what you got for free," he sputtered. "You're our daughter, you're supposed to help family." And I did. For a year, I gave up my life to help this family. What I wasn't supposed to do is work for free, while being insulted and then handed a bill like I'm some squatter. "You made this transactional. I'm just playing by your rules." My mum sat at the table quietly, her face pale and unreadable. She didn't defend me. She didn't say a word, and maybe that hurt even more than my dad's outrage. Brian and Kylie called later that night. Brian laughed. You're unbelievable. You're seriously trying to charge them for taking care of your own mom. Would you like to see the diaper changing schedule? I asked him. Or the puke logs? Or the nights I sat in the yard while you were at your golf club? He hung up. Kylie texted. She said she was disappointed in me. That mom was probably hurt. Funny, I didn't see Kylie flying in to give her a hug. By the end of the week, I had moved out. I didn't slam any doors. I didn't yell or cry or leave behind a mess. I just packed my things. Quietly, thoroughly, completely, and I left. But before I did, I made one final post. Just a picture of my invoice with the caption, Caregiver's reality. Sometimes family takes more than strangers ever would. I blurred names and addresses. I wasn't looking for attention, but attention found me. The post went viral. Asterisk, I didn't expect it. Honestly, I thought maybe a few of my old friends would like the post. Maybe comment with something like, good for you, or hang in there. But the internet, it exploded. By the next morning, the post had over 30,000 shares. People from all over the world were commenting. Nurses, caregivers, single moms, people who'd given up everything for someone else and gotten nothing in return. Some wrote long, heartfelt messages. Others just said, "You are a hero." I even got a few private messages from other daughters saying things like, "I thought I was the only one. You just gave a voice to what I've been silently screaming for years. I feel seen for the first time." It was overwhelming, beautiful, affirming. And then the media came. A popular blog picked it up first. They asked to interview me anonymously. I agreed. They titled the article, "The Daughter Who Billed Her Parents. When Family Becomes a Burden No One Talks About." Then local news called. Then a podcast. Then a caregiving advocacy group emailed asking if I'd speak. At one of their online events. Suddenly, my inbox was full of job offers too. One email, in particular, stood out. It was from the founder of a private home care agency. "I saw your story. You clearly know what real caregiving looks like. We'd be honored to have someone with your compassion and backbone on our team. Let me know if you're open to it." It felt like the universe was finally acknowledging what I had done. Meanwhile, back at my parents' house, things were falling apart. My cousin texted me that my dad had tried to defend himself on Facebook but got eaten alive in the comments. He deleted the post within an hour. My mum didn't say anything publicly, but she sent me a short message. Just 3 words, "This hurt me." I stared at those words for a long time. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "Thank you." Not, "I didn't know you felt that way." Just blame. Just more of the same. So I didn't reply. Instead, I accepted the job offer. It wasn't glamorous. It was a senior caregiver role in a small, high-end care facility, but they treated me with respect. I had regular hours, benefits, a clean apartment provided by the company, and for the first time in a year, peace. Real, quiet, healing peace. I started journaling again, reading books, getting my hair done, buying groceries without checking my bank account twice. Small things, but they made me feel human again. I didn't block my family. I just stopped chasing them. No calls, no updates, no checking their social feeds or asking relatives how they were doing. I let them sit in the silence they created. And maybe, just maybe, that silence spoke louder than my invoice ever did. 1 month later, I got a certified letter from my father. It started with the usual defensive tone. We didn't mean to hurt you. Then came the justifications. We were under stress. We didn't think. But in the last paragraph, it finally said something real. You did more than any of us. We failed to recognize that. We owe you an apology. Whether you ever forgive us is up to you. I didn't cry when I read it. I didn't even smile. I just folded it neatly and tucked it into the back of my journal. Some debts don't get paid in cash. Some are paid in truth, in consequences, in silence. Asterisk, asterisk. I wish I could say that after receiving my father's letter, everything magically got better. That we hugged it out, cried over a cup of tea and rebuilt our broken trust like in some feel-good movie. But that's not real life. In real life, healing isn't always about reconciliation. Sometimes, it's about moving on with clarity, knowing who people are, and choosing peace anyway. I didn't write back to the letter. I didn't need to. There wasn't anything left to say that hadn't already been screamed in silence, carved into those long sleepless nights, or written in that invoice. Instead, I poured myself into this new life, one where I wasn't invisible, one where my work, my effort, my time all had value. At the care facility, I met people who reminded me why I'd cared so much in the first place. Sweet older women who told me stories about the first time they fell in love. Veterans who still wore their medals during meals. Men and women who cried softly when I held their hands. They weren't my family, but somehow they made me feel more at home than my own house ever had. My supervisor, Elena, was the kind of woman who saw people. Every time she passed me in the hallway, she asked, "How's your heart today, Amanda?" Not just, "How are you?" "How's your heart?" No one had asked me that in years, and I'll never forget one evening, just as the sun was setting and casting golden light across the hallway, one of the residents, Mr. Halpin, motioned me over. He was in his 80s, sharp as a tack, but wheelchair-bound. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "I don't know who hurt you, but you love like someone who's trying to heal the world." I felt tears sting my eyes, not because I was sad, but because he saw me, really saw me. It made me realize something. I had spent so much time waiting for my family to notice me, to love me in the way I needed, that I forgot love could come from places I never expected. I wasn't bitter anymore. I wasn't even angry, just awake. Awake to my worth, my strength, my value. I started posting little reflections, online stories from the care center, thoughts about burnout, and gentle reminders for anyone in the trenches of caregiving. You are not invisible. You are not a burden. You are enough. Those posts grew too. People began sharing them, commenting, messaging. I started getting invited to speak on panels, write guest blogs, even mentor young women in health programs. And slowly, without even realizing it, I became a voice for people who'd been where I was, forgotten, unthanked, expected to give everything and ask for nothing. That wasn't who I was anymore. I was building a life not just of survival, but of impact. One day, nearly 6 months after I left home, I got another message. It was from Kylie. "Hey, just wondering if you'd be open to talking. I think I finally get it now." She'd had a baby, her own son. She wrote to say how exhausted she was, how no one told her how isolating motherhood could be, how sometimes she just cried in the bathroom because she felt unseen. And for the first time, I think she truly understood me. We didn't jump into sisterhood like nothing happened. We had coffee. We talked. She listened. And when she apologized, it wasn't defensive. It wasn't wrapped in explanations. She said, "I abandoned you. I believed what was easiest for me to believe. I'm sorry. And I forgave her. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. Because sometimes healing isn't about fixing the past, it's about releasing the weight of it. As for my parents, they remained distant, polite, cordial, careful, but something had shifted in me. I no longer craved their approval like oxygen. I no longer mistook their silence for a reflection of my worth. I had made peace with the truth. They were who they were, and I had become who I was despite them, not because of them. In the months that followed, something remarkable happened. I stopped waiting. Stopped waiting for apologies that never came. Stopped waiting for phone calls that would prove they missed me. Stopped waiting to feel like the daughter they should have been proud of. And you know what filled the space that silence left behind? Peace. Purpose. And boundaries. It's funny when you've spent your whole life tiptoeing around other people's expectations. The first time you say no feels like setting off a fire alarm. But the second time, the third time, it feels like freedom. So, when my dad called again, this time asking if I could help out for a weekend because Mum wasn't doing so well, I didn't flinch. I said, calmly, "You'll need to hire a nurse. I'm not available." He was quiet for a long moment. Then came the classic guilt trip. "You used to care." "I still do," I said. "I just care about myself too now." Click. He hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't second-guess myself. Instead, I put down the phone, made myself tea, and took a walk through the garden outside the care facility. Mr. Halpern was out there too, sitting under his favorite tree. He looked at me and grinned. "You look lighter today," he said. "I am," I replied. I said no for the first time without guilt. He nodded. "That's the kind of medicine the soul needs, kid." That night, I journaled a thought that stayed with me ever since. Forgiveness doesn't mean they're welcome back into the same space they damaged. It took me almost 3 decades to learn that. My job continued to thrive. I moved up quickly, became a shift lead, then a coordinator, then started training new hires. They saw something in me that my family never bothered to look for. Leadership, empathy, strength under pressure. And one day, I was asked to speak at a caregiver conference. Not a huge one, just local professionals and advocates, but it felt big to me. I stood on a stage, lights warming my face, and shared my story. Not just the caregiving part, not just the pain, but the aftermath, the growth, the choice to value myself even when others didn't. When I was done, a young woman approached me, barely out of college, with tears in her eyes. "My mom is sick," she whispered. "And I thought I was supposed to give up everything. But now, I think I can take care of her and take care of me." That's when I knew this story, my story, wasn't just mine. It belonged to every woman who stayed too long. Every daughter who put herself last. Every soul who was made to feel like love was only valid if it came without boundaries. Back home, things stayed mostly quiet. Kylie and I texted now and then. She even sent pictures of her baby, my nephew. She said one day she wanted me to meet him. Brian, predictably, never reached out. I think guilt eats some people alive and pride won't let them speak. And my parents? One day I received a package from them. It was a small box with a short note inside. "We know we failed you. We're sorry. If you ever want to talk, our door is open." There was no manipulation, no blame, just space. I didn't run back, but I didn't slam the door either. Sometimes the truest revenge isn't slamming someone with rage or holding on to bitterness. It's living well. It's healing when they expected you to stay broken. It's building a life so strong that their absence stops being a wound and just becomes a scar. A reminder A lesson. A part of the map, but not the destination. I used to think revenge meant making someone feel the way they made you feel. Pain for pain. Silence for silence. A wound for a wound. But I've learned that the most profound revenge is thriving. The day I realized that, I was standing in front of a mirror before heading to work. My scrubs were crisp. My hair was tied up neatly. There was color in my cheeks again, light in my eyes. I looked. Alive. It hit me, then I didn't owe anyone the sight of me falling apart. When I left my parents' house, they expected me to crawl back. They thought the guilt, the loneliness, the fear of starting over would break me. They thought I'd come, back begging, ashamed, worn down. Instead, I became something they couldn't predict. Whole. And wholeness, I found, is louder than anger ever could be. One Saturday afternoon, I was invited to speak on a podcast called Careful, a show for people navigating family, boundaries, and caregiving. The host, a woman named Sierra, had followed my story and said it had rattled the caregiving community. I laughed. All I did was send an invoice. She said, "No, you demanded dignity." That shook people. We recorded in her cozy home studio. It was intimate, honest, and unexpectedly healing. During the episode, Sierra asked, "What would you say to your parents if they were listening right now?" I paused. Then I said, "Thank you for making me strong. Not in the way I hoped, but in the way I needed. I no longer need your validation to feel worthy. And I hope one day you'll find peace with that too." When the episode aired, it got tens of thousands of downloads. More people began reaching out. Women in their 40s, sons in their 20s, even grandparents who had been on the other side of similar stories. One message stuck out. "You saved me from a breakdown. I was at my limit caring for my father alone. After hearing you, I had the courage to ask my siblings for help. For once, they listened." That message? It stayed with me. Because for every Amanda who walks away, there are thousands still in it, trapped in guilt, afraid of what the world will think if they say, "I'm not okay." So I leaned in. I started a blog. Boundaries and Bandages. Half memoir, half advocacy. A space for caregivers to be honest. Not saints. Not martyrs. Real. It grew fast. Within months, I had a full community. Forums. Virtual meets. Guest writers. People telling their truth for the first time. We weren't angry. We weren't bitter. We were just done carrying shame that didn't belong to us. I hosted a Q&A once, and someone asked me, "Would you do it all again?" And I thought about it for a long time. "I would still care for my mother," I said. "But I'd do it with a contract, a schedule, a team, support, respect. I wouldn't set myself on fire to keep others warm. Because here's the truth. No one wants to say out loud. Love without boundaries isn't noble. It's self-destruction. And no daughter, no son, no sibling should have to collapse in the name of duty." Asterisk. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon when the call came. Kylie's name lit up my screen. I hadn't spoken to her in a few weeks. Not out of malice. Just life being life. We had slowly grown into a rhythm that felt more like equals now. No begging. No guilt. Just mutual respect. But this time her voice trembled. "Dad's in the hospital," she said. My heart did a strange little lurch. Not out of panic. Out of surprise. "He had a minor stroke," she continued. "He's stable, but they're saying it might take weeks to fully recover." I sat still, quiet, letting the words land. Then came the hesitation in her voice. The unspoken question. "Mom's a mess," she added. "I'm flying in next week. Brian. Well, he's being Brian. But I thought you should know. Translation. They need help. Again, but here's the thing. This time, I didn't feel cornered. I didn't feel like I had to drop everything, erase my schedule, abandon my peace to rush back into a role no one respected. Instead, I asked, who's caring for him now? They've hired a home nurse for the day, but nights are hard. Mom's not coping. I nodded, more to myself than to her. You know, I run a support network now, right? I can recommend some trusted agencies. Or if they're willing to pay, I can coordinate a team for them. But I won't be moving in. There was a pause. Then, to my surprise, Kylie said, honestly, that sounds perfect. No guilt, no pushback, just agreement. Growth. On both sides. Later that night, I got a text from my mother. We hired a care team. It's different without you. I didn't realize how much you carried. I'm sorry I never said thank you. It was short. Simple. But it softened something in me. Not everything. But something. I responded, I'm glad he's okay. I wish you both peace and healing. Let me know if you need help coordinating support. And that was it. No dramatics. No re-entry into the old chaos. Just boundaries. Clear, respectful, humane. For the first time, my parents were navigating crisis without defaulting to me as the safety net. And they survived. Funny how people figure things out when they're not constantly rescued. A few weeks later, Kylie sent me a photo. Dad in a wheelchair, looking tired but alive. Mum beside him, both holding a small whiteboard that read, thanks to our caregiving team, we're home. I looked at the picture for a long moment, felt the odd ache of distance, but also peace. Because I knew this. They had a team now. I was no longer the unpaid, unthanked daughter carrying the weight of an entire family. I was something different now. An advocate, a professional, a woman with her own life. And even if they never fully grasped how deeply they'd failed me, they at least learned what it meant to pay for what they used to take for granted. Asterisk. After everything that happened, after the silence, the invoice, the apology, and the distance, I found myself doing something unexpected. I wrote a letter to my mother. Not to send, just to write. There's something healing about putting words on paper. Words you never had the space or safety to say out loud. Words that live outside of obligation or confrontation. It began simply. Dear Mum, you probably don't know this, but I loved you the most when you were at your worst. I told her how I used to cry in the bathroom after helping her to bed. How I whispered, I've got you, Mom, even when I felt like I was falling apart. How I begged God in the middle of the night, please just let her get better. Please let me not fail her. And how I felt like I did fail when she looked at me with hollow eyes and said, you should smile more. You used to be pretty. That line never left me. Not because of vanity, but because it made me realize how invisible I had become. I wrote how much it hurt when she didn't defend me, when she let Dad treat me like a burden, when she stayed silent while my siblings minimized me. That then I wrote something I hadn't expected to feel. I know you were sick. I know you were scared. I know you didn't know how to ask for what you needed in a way that didn't sound like criticism. I don't excuse it, but I understand it a little. More now. The words came freely, messy, honest, soft and sharp in equal measure. By the end, I felt lighter. I folded the letter and slipped it into a box under my bed. I didn't need to send it. It wasn't for her. It was for me. Weeks turned into months. My Blog grew into something bigger, a small non-profit that advocated for caregiver rights. We ran support groups, offered legal advice, hosted retreats, and provided emergency funds for those burned out, like I once was. We even launched a campaign called You Can't Bill Love, but You Can Value Labor. It featured real caregiver invoices submitted anonymously. Each story came with a face, a name, a voice. People began to understand that behind every devoted daughter was often an exhausted woman doing 3 jobs at once for free. I was invited to speak at national panels now. On one stage, I shared the full story start to finish for the first time. When I got to the part about the invoice, the room was silent. Not judging. Listening. And when I said, I didn't bill them because I wanted revenge. I billed them because I needed them to see what love looked like when it was turned into labor. Someone in the back stood up and clapped. Then another. Then the room. It was surreal. Afterward, a woman in her 60s hugged me tight and whispered, You just said everything I've never been brave enough to admit. I'll never forget that. Because it reminded me that my story was never just mine. It was a mirror. A mirror held up to every person who'd been asked to give endlessly, while being told they were selfish for wanting anything back. One evening, Kylie called. Her voice sounded lighter than usual. Guess what? She said. Mum wants to talk to you. Not to fix anything. Just to talk. I hesitated. Not because I was scared, but because I wasn't sure I needed that anymore. Still, I agreed. We scheduled a video call. Just the 2 of us. When her face appeared on screen, I felt a strange mix of sadness and tenderness. She looked older, softer, a little smaller somehow. Hi, Amanda, she said. Hi, Mom. There was silence. Then, I read your blog, she said. I've been reading it for a while now. I didn't comment because I didn't know if I had the right. But I see now. I really see it. What you did. What we did or didn't do. I said nothing. Let her sit in her own words. I don't deserve your forgiveness, she added. You don't have to ask for it, I replied. Just know I'm not angry anymore. I found peace. I hope you can too. And that was enough. No tearful reunion. No dramatic, I'm proud of you. Just recognition. Soft, fragile recognition. Sometimes. That's all we need. It's strange how the weight of a memory can linger like a bruise long after the injury's healed. I was standing in my office one morning, now the modest headquarters of our growing caregiver advocacy foundation, when I found the original invoice I had written. Still folded, still crisp, still brutally honest. $227,700. I looked at it for a long time. Not with rage. Not even with sorrow. Just quiet understanding. That paper wasn't just a list of numbers. It was a receipt for a version of me that no longer existed. The Amanda who needed approval. The Amanda who waited for love like a hungry child. The Amanda who was willing to bleed just to prove she was useful. I took a pen and slowly crossed out the total. Then I wrote, in bold ink across the bottom, balance due. $0 paid in full by growth, healing and letting go. I scanned it and sent it via email. 1 copy to Mom, 1 to Dad. No message. No caption, just closure. A week later I got 2 responses. From Dad. Understood. From Mum. I cried. I get it now. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Some statements exist only to be received, not answered. Life went on. Our foundation received a grant that allowed us to launch a free legal aid program for overburdened caregivers. We started workshops at community centers. I was offered a book deal, The cost of care. What love should never demand. People said things like, "You're inspiring," or "You're so strong." And while I appreciated it, I always thought the real power came not from what I did, but from what I refused to keep doing. I stopped betraying myself. I stopped apologizing for needing rest, boundaries, compensation, dignity. I stopped allowing people, family or not, to define me by what I gave them. Because here's what no one teaches you about family. Love is not proven by suffering, and respect isn't earned by being the most selfless. You don't have to be broken to be valuable. One Sunday afternoon, Kylie invited me to her son's 3rd birthday party. I almost said no. That something in her voice made me agree. When I arrived, I was surprised to find Mom sitting quietly in the corner, watching the chaos of toddlers and balloons with a soft smile. She looked up and nodded at me, not as a test, not as bait, just a nod, an acknowledgement. We sat side by side for a while, saying nothing. Then she whispered, "You built something amazing, Amanda. I know it didn't come from joy, but I hope it brings you some." I looked at her and said, "It already has." And that was the truest thing I could have said. Because I had built a life not in spite of the pain, but through it. A life where love was given freely, but never extracted. Where boundaries weren't punishments, but gifts. Where the past didn't define me, but taught me. And that was worth every tear, every night on the cold floor, every ignored sacrifice. I no longer needed them to see me. I saw me. Fully. Clearly. Unapologetic ally. And that, in the end, was the only payment that ever really mattered. So, to anyone listening, any daughter, son, partner, sibling, anyone who's ever been taken for granted in the name of love, you are not selfish for wanting to be valued. You are not wrong for drawing the line. You are not cruel for protecting your peace. If they hand you a bill for everything you gave, send them your invoice, then send them silence, then build something they'll never be able to put a price on. Your freedom. Asterisk. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment ND so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy. Goodbye.